welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I thought it would be really fun to talk about the 5 books that I read in just one sitting that helped me get out of my reading slump. So I actually read 3 of them, like physical copy, and then 2 of them on my Kindle. I was in a really bad reading slump last month in the month of September, and now that we are in October, I set up like a whole October TBR with like spooky season and fall vibe books, and I have just been reading them non-stop. We're actually almost done with the first week of October, and I have already read 5 books. So like I said, I've just been reading them non-stop in one sitting, and a lot of these have been 5 out of 5 stars. If you know me in person, you know that I don't normally give out 5 stars, so this has just been like the perfect reading week almost. So I'm gonna quit rambling. We're gonna jump right into the first book. The first book that I read was actually Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I love Ali Hazelwood's writing. I think that it is just so refreshing. She has like a whole series of like women in STEM, and I love that. This book was so fun. You follow the 2 characters, Jack and Elsie, and it's kind of like a enemies to lovers in a way. They know each other because Elsie is actually fake dating his brother. And then of course they don't really get along. They're both physicists, and he works at MIT and she's trying to become a professor there. So you're gonna follow that whole story. I was reading this book and I literally did not want it to end. When I got to the end, I was like, where is the rest? Because it was just such a good book. Like I said, Ali Hazelwood's writing is just so effortlessly and so refreshing. I really enjoyed this book. It was definitely a 4 out of 5 stars for me. The second book that I read, I actually read it on my Kindle, and it is called Finley, Donovan is Killing It, and I loved this book so much. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. It was everything and more. It was the perfect mystery thriller comedy, and I loved it. If you've never heard of Finley, Donovan is Killing It, it is about a mom and she is struggling for money. She is actually an author herself, and she writes mystery and thriller books. She meets up at Panera with her publisher, and they're talking about how her next book is going to have certain things in it, and there's a woman sitting next to them that is in a very desperate situation, and she's overhearing their conversation, and she ends up leaving a note on Finley's tray, and the note pretty much says, "Can you my husband?" She pretty much thinks that Finley is a hit woman, which is not the case at all. So now Finley has to figure out what she needs to do and kind of tell this woman that this is not what she does. So you're following that story. There's a bunch of twists and turns, and I loved it so much. It kept me at the edge of my seat. The chapters weren't that long, so you just kind of kept reading through them, which I loved. I had such a good time reading it. It was just perfect. I will say the last page, the last sentence, had me at loss for words. I couldn't believe it. It left off on such a cliffhanger. I instantly went and got the second book, which is called Finley, Donovan Knocks Him Dead. And I'm so excited to read it because I needed to know why we left off on the cliffhanger that we left off on. So I'm really excited to read that book. I'll probably read it sometime this month or next month. The third book that I read was actually a reread, and it is Daisy Jones and the Six. I love this book. I read it and then I listened to like the audio version. And if you've never heard of Daisy Jones and the Six, it is an incredible book. It is also an incredible show. I love the show. I love the soundtrack. The only difference between the show and the book is that in the book there's an extra character, which is like in the band, and in the show they didn't do that, but you really don't miss them, so it doesn't matter. Daisy Jones and the Six is about a girl named Daisy, and she ends up joining a band called the Six. It is the 70s, and everything is rock and roll, and they are trying to make their name in music. I love the way that this story is portrayed. It is an interview style, so you're going off between each character and their perspectives on the situations that happened years ago. It was so refreshing. I loved it so much. This is such a good book. Easily a 5 out of 5 for me. I love this book and I will always recommend it. The next book that I read on Kindle as well, and it is called One of Us is Lying. If you've never heard about One of Us is Lying, it's a YA mystery, and I really did enjoy it. It kept me at the edge of my seat. Again, you are listening from different characters' perspectives. So One of Us is Lying is about 5 classmates that go to detention. Only 4 of them come out alive. So one of them has a horrible allergic reaction and dies. And although everybody did try to help, the more that the police investigate, the more they think that someone in the circle did it. So you're learning about each character, which I will say they're a little stereotypical. And yeah, you're learning about each character. Each character has their own situation that they're going through. And then I personally did not know who it was until I got to the end, which I liked. I didn't think that it was like so cliche, like, oh, we definitely know. Definitely kept me at the edge of my seat. I rated it a 4 out of 5 and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The last book that I read in one sitting, I actually finished it 2 days ago, and it is called The Housemaid. I am embarrassed for how long it took me to read this book, but now that I did, it is the best book I think I've read in 2023. I loved it so much. It is a thriller, mystery. It has so many twists. It has so many turns. The chapters are so easy and so short. I'm not lying to you. I think one of the chapters was literally 2 pages. So every page leaves off on like a cliffhanger and you just want to read the next, and then you want to read the next, and before you know it, you've read it. The book is pretty short. It's only 300 pages on top of that. But I loved The Housemaid. It was so good. I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars. If you've never heard about The Housemaid, it is pretty much about a girl named Millie, and she just got out of prison after 10 years. We don't actually know why she was in prison, but we do know that she was in prison. And she ends up taking a job as a live-in housemaid for a couple named Andrew and Nina. And from the outside, Andrew and Nina look like they have the perfect life. They're extremely wealthy, they've got a beautiful child and a beautiful home. But the more she lives in there, the more she figures out that things aren't as they seem. So like I said, this just has so many twists and turns. I will say one of the biggest red flags that would have had me running for the hills was that not only does she live in the attic, okay, she lives in the attic, whatever. She lives in the attic, but the door only locks from the outside. Like, that is just so scary and so creepy. But of course, she is desperate for a job. She can't really get any other job, so she had to stick with this job. I love this story as well because it's told in like 2 parts. The first part is from Millie's like perspective, and the second part is from Nina's perspective, which I think was so brilliant to do. Just like Finley Donovan is killing it, this leaves off on such a cliffhanger that I could not believe. I ran to the public library to check out the second book, and it is called The Housemaid's Secrets or something like that, and I am so excited to read it because I need to know more about Millie, our character. But easily this was a 5 out of 5. I will never stop recommending or raving about this book. I thoroughly enjoyed this book so much. And that is it, guys. Those are the 5 books that I ended up reading in one sitting. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.